Thank you very much, dear colleagues. The closing section is about to begin. It is my privilege to present some closing notes to this conference. But before doing so, we would like to present you a short video from the Ukrainian colleagues, which we were going to present in this opening section. But in lack of time, we had to push it to the end of the conference. So please listen and see it.
Привіт, я Костів Сергій, є власник зоопарку Лімпопо, селища Мединичі, який був заснований у 2008 році, почав працювати з 2011. На сьогоднішній день займає 6 гектарів, маємо 210 видів тварин, понад 1000 особин. Ми співпрацюємо в програмі EAP, ASP, Species 360, є членами Асоціації зоопарків України. І всі зоопарки – це велика сім'я. Сім'я зоопарків України, сім'я зоопарків Європи і сім'я зоопарків всього світу. І нам дуже приємно, що ви не залишили нас в цей тяжкий час, що для нас це дуже важливо мати підтримку, розуміти, що ми не самі. Велике спасибі зоопаркам Чехії та Словаччини, польським колегам, які нас дуже підтримали і допомогли. Зоопарку Лоро-парк, який надав дуже велику кількість кормів. І всім, хто до того долучився. І велике людське дякую Європейській асоціації зоопарків за матеріальну підтримку для всіх зоопарків України. І, зокрема, для нашого зоопарку Лімпопо. Якраз в той момент, коли нам вкрай було необхідно кошти, ваша фінансова допомога нам дуже допомогла. Знаю і вірю в те, що ви нас і не залишите і надалі. Вірю в нашу скору перемогу. Слава Україні! Україна понад усе! Дякую вам!
Dear colleagues, thank you for the video. Thank you for joining us in this meeting. Your presence in this conference in the circumstances given was truly a brave act. Your perseverance in is setting as an example for us, and we are proud of any contribution we can offer in supporting your cause. I sincerely believe that these couple of days reinforced our faith in the strength of our community and proved that with the enthusiasm we all share, we can cope pandemics, financial crises, we can reconnect and join forces in whatever circumstances we need to. And really, what a great week this was. Without even pretending that I could list our achievements, I would just praise that we have approved the field conservation standard of the EAZA, which is vital in securing that efforts of all zoos in the in-situ conservation become measurable and be available to prove our essential role in saving the species globally. We have seen inevitable evidence that our joint efforts already turned into fruition, that the processing of the data we have been collecting in the past decades about our animal collections can be effectively used in lobbying, shaping policymakers, and public opinion forming. In our workshops, we started the fine-tuning of the RCP process and linked education activities, which means that we are listening, understanding, and respecting the diversity of our membership. And this is a true potential that helps us reaching even higher standards and the goals that we set here in this very meeting. I am thankful for your work in this, thankful for the host of this conference, and thank the EU for their background and very often frontline work. Many thanks and gratitude to the Zoomer in Portugal team for having us and taking such good care of us in a very professional way. Thanks to Pedro Lavia, founder and president of Zoomerin, Elio Vicente for the management, planning and coordination of the event. The first preparations already started in September 2019. Pedro Ramos and João Neves for running and operating the conference hub, which has turned out to be very handy during the conference. Antonieta Costa and Sonia Augusto for all the support and financial handling. And of course, many thanks to the entire Zoomerin staff for looking after us during the registration, the zoo visit, and the upcoming gala dinner. This conference wouldn't have been possible without the professional support and guidance of Kevin Barado, senior event producer of Supreme Stage, or conference organizer. Kevin and his team have provided great excellence throughout the conference. Their support has been invaluable for the success of this event. Finally, also a big thank you to our exhibitors. Without their support, this conference wouldn't have been possible. Thank you very much. We are now moving to the presentation of this year's EAZA Lifetime Achievement Awards. These are the association's most prestigious level of recognition. EAZA Lifetime Achievement Awards are presented to colleagues from within our EAZA community and occasionally the wider professional zoo and aquarium community that have demonstrated commitment and have made a significant contribution to the fields of conservation, education, research, and/or the welfare of animals. The handing out of the EAZA Lifetime Achievement Awards had come to pause during the pandemic years. However, we are pleased to announce that 6 colleagues will receive an award today. The first award that will be present is for a true dinosaur in our EAZA community. We participated in our community well before we were even one European community, and well before the birth of EAZA 30 years ago. This colleague has helped shape ECAZA and EAZA along the way. He is a walking encyclopedia of species knowledge and taxonomy. You will have probably guessed by now that I'm speaking about Radoslav Ratesev. Radoslav is one of the pioneers of research work on populations of endemic and endangered animal species in Southeast Asia. In the 1980s, he reached places that were completely inaccessible and unexplored, paving the way for subsequent researchers and zoologists. He did this with very limited financial resources, sometimes remaining out of communication with his country and family for weeks at a time. His enormous commitment to learning about new species, but also his always open and kind manner towards local people and colleagues, are his keys to success. At the zoos, he surrounded himself with specialists and set very high standards for himself and others. Difficulties never hampered his enthusiasm for realizing his vision of protecting little-known species. He undertook a reform of the tenure of Wrocław Zoo in order to be able to expand the zoo on an unprecedented scale in this part of Europe and to promote the conservation of species in the natural habitat. As he used to say, I had to be able to dispose of the funds earned by the zoo for conservation and education purposes. After all, no one in the city hall would grant me 20,000 euro to protect a Laotian rock rat or a silverback chevrolet. Radoslav has provided service to EAZA in many different ways. He has been a member of many tags and also EAZA Council. He has managed the EPs and has been a member of both the EP Committee and Conservation Committee for well over a decade. Retirement doesn't exist in Radoslav's agenda. He went back to his beloved Vietnam and its primates, where decades ago he made the first ever photos of living Khatba langurs, Dalakurangurs, and Tonkin snub-nosed monkeys. He also so close to the search of Saula, which research and search he was supporting for so many years as the Saula working group member. Unfortunately, Radoslav couldn't be able to attend this year's conference. However, we are sure he is watching online. Please join me in congratulating Radoslav with this award. And I would like to invite Radoslav's colleagues to the stage.
Greetings to everyone. I believe from all bunch of dinosaurs, Mr. Ratajczak is supposed to be a T-Rex. Dear Al, thank you very much. As a part of the family, first of all, we absolutely regret that Mr. Ratajczak couldn't come and attend, as I believe he would like to be with us, as we are a part of his life and the family. Whatever stopped him, I believe, is not a minor thing. I speak myself, but in plural form, because we absolutely agree with I think, with all those sentences. Our journey starts in 2007, and just after when he took this position, we can say, put us into the time machine, or I don't know, Shinkansen bullet train. We had he put us and allowed to pass transformation, not easy, but I think the best transformation ever. Thanks to him, we are here. We are in many different projects around the world, and we're grateful for all his work that he did for this planet, for us especially, and also what he does in the Cuc Phuong Vietnam Center. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. For the next presentation, I would like to invite Christine Leus.
Hi. So the reason I'm standing up here may give you a clue, and that the next awardee fits in the nerdy department. And in this case, it's an understatement, because according to us, it's one of the greater gods in the pantheon of small population biology. And so I'm very happy to announce that the next Lifetime Achievement Award goes to John Ballou. Now, many of you will not have met John in person, so this is an interesting situation. And yet, a big chunk of you have been totally dependent on his work. If you think we have about 450 EPs at the moment, and that most of these EPs have had previous coordinators and stud bookkeepers over the years, I think it's safe to say that about 1,000 of you have been dependent on John's contributions. John is a true pioneer in population management for conservation, and important for us, that included ex situ population management. And it's no exaggeration to say that EAZA's efforts for ex situ conservation and having sustainable zoo populations were to a large degree dependent on John's work. If he were here, and he's not, sadly, but hopefully watching online, he would be the first to say that he was just a member of a team, but I think it's safe to say that this is a small team of quite select people, and I think they would also all agree that he made a really critical and unique contribution. And John, I don't know if you know, but some of those team members are watching with you, albeit in different parts of the US, because Bob Lacey at Laurie Bingham and Lackey and Kathy Traylor-Holzer are watching this announcement. Until his retirement a few years ago, John worked for the Smithsonian Institution, National Zoological Park in Washington, as research scientist. And he was one of the driving forces behind the development of the main kinship method that we all use for the genetic management of our populations. And together with Bob Lacey and Laurie Bingham and Lackey and J.P. Pollock, he also developed PM2000 and our current version of that, PMX. And John was mostly responsible for the demographic section of that population analysis software. So all of you that make age pyramids and census graphs and population projections and figure out how many births you need to grow your population, or how many births you need to reintroduce more Przewalski horses, you couldn't have done that without John. He also developed MateRx, which I know some of you are using, and he recently worked on a module for biobanking. Now, our international zoo community largely depends on volunteers to run our programs, and many of us have no formal education in population biology or sometimes indeed biology. And when I was hired by Antwerp Zoo, they somehow had the great foresight to know that somebody with a PhD in Babirusa stomach anatomy could be perfect for the job. But safe to say I had the steep learning curve. And John was a fabulous mentor, so fabulous that within a few short years I could help to teach you. So John is incredibly patient and very good at explaining those of us that don't like math or statistics, how complicated issues in population biology can be understood in a simple way. So we have population managers, trainers, advisory groups in many regional and national zoo associations that we're all benefiting from John's mentoring and training, publications, books. Many academic institutions are now teaching some of the methods he developed, and but that's giving us our population managers of the future. John would also say that the proof in the pudding is in whether species are better off as a result of this. No problem in that department, because John, for example, worked a lot with California condors and golden lion tamarins. You could say that John helped save golden lion tamarins, and golden lion tamarins are helping to save all of our species because they're often used as a model for our methods. He also worked many years with Cassie Traylor-Holzer, many years, in China for breeding and transfer recommendations of giant panda, and indeed capacity building and population management there. And think of all the work you're doing with your species, and think of our Przewalski horses and European vulture programs that are using all that science to guide the population restoration work. Now, when John retired from the Smithsonian Institution, he generously helped us deal with the "what on earth are we going to do now" question by taking his computer on a sailboat and continuing to work for us in the Species Conservation Toolkit initiative. And that is a partnership to make sure that there's continuity in the tools that we use. And the initiative is heading towards a new chapter, and so John recently announced that he intends to go do a lot more sailing, and without a computer. But John, we felt we couldn't let you sail off without telling you how much you mean to us. You're not only a great scientist, mentor, and saver of species, but also a very remarkable human being. You've been very generous with your time for anybody who needed help, regardless of their background or hierarchy in our profession. So, I can think of no one better to get this Lifetime Achievement Award. We wish you smooth sailing in your adventures, and we hope that your US colleagues will help you build a little party on the other side of the ocean, be it online. So thank you, John, and a big virtual hug from all of us here in EAZA. He sent us a thank you word, so I was told to do that. Yeah. So John's not here, but someone could take a gorilla. Here, hold this gorilla. John is not here, but he sent us a very short, don't panic, thank you word. He says, "Hello, EAZA community. This award is indeed a great honor from such an upstanding community. Thank you very much. I realize I have not met many of you who worked in population management at EAZA, but certainly over the years we have corresponded by email with me trying to answer your various questions, like, why does PMX do that? Usual answer, I can't remember anymore." That's true. Or why doesn't PMX do this? Usual answer, never thought of that. Good idea. Or, this result from PMX seems a bit strange. Usual answer, whoops. Yeah, we'll fix that. PMX began kind of in 1984, when the National Zoo received its first 2 computers. Laurie Bigeman, who's indeed some of you know, and I were given one of the 2 and told to go figure it out. And we had lots of fun doing just that, and in the process developed the first demographic analysis module. That would later be included in PM 2000, the first version of what is now PMX. If Laurie is here or listening, she is, all being well, those were fun memories that I will never forget. So thank you very much for this honor and recognition. I just want to add that the National Zoo and the Smithsonian Institute deserve much of the credit for PMX for providing an environment where its employees were permitted the freedom to pursue and develop these kinds of tools needed for species conservation. Thank you, from John. I'm off with Endre's papers.
Congratulations, and thank you very much for those words. It is my privilege to introduce the next award for a friend, for a respected colleague. Grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, California. She always loved living things of all sizes and spent her summers backpacking in the mountains. From a very early age, she was interested in animals in zoos and remembers being confused by a platypus and totally overcome by touching a baby elephant. At university, she studied zoology with PhD in animal behavior. After meeting her Israeli zoologist husband, Joseph, in graduate school, they married and immigrated to Israel in 1971. While her two children were small, she worked in science curriculum development. In 1981, she was appointed to the position of curator at Safari in Ramat Gan, just when the animals from the old Tel Aviv Zoo were transferred to their new home in the existing Safari. She says that she feels truly fortunate to have participated in the everyday challenges and excitement involved in creating an environment where the well-being of animals was paramount and where the public could experience the animals and plants and absorb the incredible beauty and diversity of the living world. Within the EAZA framework, she was co-chair of the Elephant Tag from 1994 till 2008 with Ton Dorrestein, director of the Rotterdam Zoo, and was the EEP coordinator for African elephants. Over the period of her tenure, great changes occurred in zoo world. The formation of the EAZA enabling communication and sharing of information and management of small populations, better understanding of animals' requirements, a new vision of design and function of zoos. The practical application at the Safari was larger space for animals, improving animal enrichment and animal training and evolving changes in the context and messaging of enclosures. In Israel, the trickle-down influence of the EAZA framework helped the zoos to shift from being highly territorial to understanding that they were in friendly competition. By working on their individual strengths and defining common goals, the impact of all of the institutions was greater. Structured meetings, specialized workshops, and annual meetings enabled the achievement of this transition. The transition was made possible by the enthusiasm of the directors. During her tenure, she found great pleasure in helping young people focus and develop their own careers as animal caretakers or interpreters. After 31 years, she retired from the Safari. She continued as part-time curator for the Haifa Zoo for 5 years. Today, Amelia Terkel enjoys her grandchildren, sharing her interests with them and helping them develop on their own. Amelia, it is a special privilege for me to present this award and honor you in this occasion.
To the Executive Committee, thank you. I am both honored and astonished to receive this prize 10 years after I retired from the safari and celebrating my 80th birthday year. As the real dinosaur in the room, I observed the journey of change in our institutions since the beginning of my career. My own professional journey starts in an unpromising way in 1969. I had just finished my PhD in bird reproductive physiology and behavior. An exciting opening for bird curator at the Bronx Zoo in New York seemed designed for me. However, the director wrote to me that I was not eligible since a woman could not supervise male keepers. I married and moved to Israel, but I didn't forget my dream. 11 years later, a position opened for general curator at the new safari in Ramat Gan. I invited the director to hear my presentation on the use of biological collections for public education. He hired me the next week. And how fortunate I was to have found a way to follow my passion. Looking around this room today, we can all see how many women in our field have followed their passion to leadership positions. Another change. In 1992, EAZA was just starting, and I became the Safari and Israel's first representative. I discovered I was not alone anymore. The excitement of making friends with like-minded, talented people, visiting other facilities, infused me with energy. It was clear that EAZA offered a real working framework in which we could learn together and deal with tiny populations in a scientific way. Knowing we were developing common guidelines for the welfare of our animals, we felt more confident in exchanging them. After each EAZA meeting, I brought home both an animal shopping list and a shopping list of ideas. Today, we see how EAZA's journey has achieved a professional group with continental impact. The first part of the citation relates to my work within EAZA for the elephant tag. And this is what the safari brought to EAZA. It brought a new perspective on elephant management. Its spacious enclosure design and unique no-contact care for elephants were informed by huge changes in understanding of animal welfare over this period, thanks to fieldwork in social behavior, developmental behavior, psychology, etc. Our remarkable breeding success with both species of elephants, 7 calves born in the year of the elephant, 1989, created a natural opening for me to join the African elephant EEP in a leadership position. Ton Dorstein, then director of the Rotterdam Zoo, was the head of the tag, and I later became co-chair. The committee worked really well together. One anecdote illustrates how open sharing of information improved the well-being of our herds. The tag did a mortality survey, which showed that there was a remarkably high perinatal mortality. By collecting videos of births from different institutions and viewing them as a committee, we could see the evidence that restricting movement of birthing mothers by chaining was stressful. Box stalls were much better. And with time, management changed and perinatal survival improved. This behavioral factor was one factor for their improvement. We made progress with complete guidelines, thanks to the British community. And slowly, from institutional suspicion, we moved to a more cooperative outlook. But it took a generation to make real change because creating new facilities designed for protected contact was expensive, and it was a challenge to change the elephant keepers' direct contact mindset. Today, 30 years later, I am amazed to see the positive journey in elephant welfare and populations in this tag. And I hear that with all this success, there are new problems that are evolving. The second part of the citation regards introducing EAZA standards of welfare and enrichment in our country, Israel. As staff from other zoos began to participate in EAZA conferences, we all realized that we must work together. We shifted from being 5 highly territorial institutions to understanding that we were in friendly competition, working toward common goals in animal welfare, education, conservation, and in our public-facing image. We formed an Israeli Zoo Association. We translated and adopted EAZA guidelines into Hebrew, which you read backwards, and we held annual zoo inspections. All this could not have happened without the hard work of staff in all the zoos, not just animal staff, but education, spokespersons, marketing, and others. Most of all, the open friendships and cooperation between the zoo directors were significant enablers. In the evolution toward EAZA standards in enrichment and training, I would like to mention 3 important factors. One was establishing research in the safari, which introduced the ideas, methods, and a practical plan for enrichment and training. And this is through my husband, Professor Joseph Turkel, and his graduate students. And I am happy that he is here today somewhere to meet this amazing group of people and see what I've been talking about all my life. The second is the keepers themselves, who with some grumbling changed routines to include enrichment and training in their daily work. The payoff was immediate. Shoot training eliminated the trauma of giraffe pedicures. Great ape training for basic medical tests eased the stress in health care. Public presentations of animal enrichment and training enlivened the visitor experience and provided insight into animal welfare, animal intelligence, and the incredible interspecies communication between the humans and the animals in their care. Finally, we are indebted to the Segre Foundation, which founded the EAZA Academy workshops for the, in this case, for the Israel Zoo Association, bringing higher staff professionalism to all Israeli zoos. We were able to invite international specialists on topics including enrichment, training, elephant work, veterinary work, benefiting both the staff and animal welfare. Personally, I am privileged to have had a role in this journey of change and to have played a part in helping younger staff to achieve their own goals and grow into leadership positions. Thank you.
Thank you very much and congratulations, Amelia. For the next award presentation, I would like to invite Neil Bement and Simon Sheka to the stage.
First job, swap glasses. I've learnt from Chef. Hello, everybody. It gives us great pleasure to introduce the recipient of this Lifetime EAZA Achievement Award. I first met this person when I was working as an animal keeper at London Zoo back in 1983, where he, that's the first clue, was studying a pair of animals that just happened to be on my section at the time. But it was to be another 10 years before our paths would cross again, namely at the EAZA Annual Conference hosted by Salzburg Zoo. He has the unique distinction of having devoted his entire working life not only to one zoo, but also to a species that his own zoo never ever held. I say a species, but that is a bit misleading, as since the inception of its EEP, it has become one species with two subspecies, then to being two species, to now being three species, one of which has three subspecies. Don't we just love those taxonomists? We are, of course, talking about the orangutan and their extraordinary champion, the one and only Dr. Clemens Becker. Get down here, Clemens, now. Clemens, come on down. Come on down. I'll keep going while he's toddling down here. Clemens took up the position as curator at Karlsruhe Zoo in 1985, having completed his doctoral thesis on play and social behavior in orangutans a couple of years earlier, the findings of which were a revelation to the zoo community. This thesis was subsequently published in a book form with a foreword by none other than the great Dr. Bernard Jimmick of Frankfurt Zoo fame. It reads, "I hope that Clemens's remarkable investigations will contribute to further improving the living condition of great apes in zoological gardens." Since 1982, and no doubt spurred on by this accolade, his mentor, Clemens has diligently produced no more than 40 annual European stud books, all of which are the meticulous attention to detail, and if at all possible, without having to use any of the latest document processing packages that may have been available to him. I have it on good authority that whenever the EAZA office had to introduce any software or other newfangled technologies, they would draw straws as to who would have to break this bad news to him. But they knew that if they treated him with kindness and care, then the chances were that even though he would probably still bark out his protests, if his bark was not working that day, then you would find out that he hadn't really got any bite at all, and he was actually quite a nice chap. And dare I say, he got to be quite an expert with PMX 2000, and then Zims came along to spoil his fun. Anyway, over the decades, Clemens, as EEP coordinator, has made countless thousands, and I mean thousands, of population management recommendations for the good of his beloved orangutans, all of which he seems to know personally. One only has to recall any of his annual updates with photos of every new baby born that year, and indeed any old friends that had sadly passed away, to see how much they all meant to him. In addition to his EEP work and time-absorbing duties as a deputy director at Karlsruhe Zoo and supporting the German keeper education system as part of their qualifications, the past decade has suddenly seen our Clemens leaping about in various jungles of the world, fulfilling the work of the Zoo's Conservation Foundation, for which he is also the curator. He got his first taste for an in-situ conservation when he visited Borneo in the mid-1990s, and he has maintained his contact with the rehabilitation sanctuaries to this day, and he has always been a keen advocate for the work that they do. However, his latest enthusiasm to start new in-situ projects, very proud of you for all this stuff, you know that, don't you? He has now taken to him to South America, in particular Ecuador, where his commitment to achieve good things and to encourage the local communities to do the same has never been more apparent. Now, under normal circumstances, he should have retired at 65, but as he said to Matthias Reinschmidt, the director of Karlsruhe since 2015, as you know, the last years at the zoo have been the best of his working life. That's his quote. And if at all possible, he wished to defer his retirement as he felt he still had more to contribute. This wish was duly granted, such that Clement is now a mere 68 and a half years young. I know he doesn't look it, but still has the same boundless energy as when he first started in the zoo world all those years ago. And in the last 5 years, the foundation has collected no less than €2.5 million for in situ conservation, with Clements being an instrumental part in the success of this initiative. No doubt his love of fine red wine, followed by some very questionable singing, are probably the secret ingredients to this tireless enthusiasm, along with, of course, the support of his wife, Barbara, and family. Clements, it is impossible to summarize in just a few minutes all that you have done for the orangutan and the conscientious way in which you have supported the EAZA cause over the past 4+ decades. But suffice to say, you have been a superb example to us all and a great mentor to your successors, Simone, who will say a few words shortly, with whom you have swapped roles of coordinator and vice coordinator just a year ago this month. For my own part, it has been an honour to have been your vice coordinator and to have had you as a close EAZA colleague and wonderful friend for so many years. The orangutan team, Simona, Miriam, Paola, the Species Committee, the staff at the Karlsruhe Zoo, along with all of us here today, would like to wish you a long and happy retirement, though given your continuing involvement on the board of the Karlsruhe Conservation Foundation for another 3 years, we almost certainly have not heard the last from you. So it's all that's left for me to do now before I hand over to Simona to say a few more heartfelt words, is to please ask all of you to join me in congratulating Clements on this thoroughly well-deserved EAZA Lifetime Achievement Awards. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Dr. Clements Becker.
Clemens, my lovely friend, I only want to add that it was and still is a great honor for all of us and also for me to work with you over the last years for the orangutans. But not only that, I feel a great gratitude that we met each other almost 10 years ago at Montpellier, my first EAZA conference, I think you can remember. Yes. And that we built such a wonderful friendship. And to be sure that you will always remember your last EAZA conference, and as we all know, like we can see, that you love drinking red wine almost the whole time, we still have a small memory of Albufera for you.
That's no red wine, unfortunately.
Who knows?
Maybe.
Oh.
Okay. And from the local area of Spain where I've been toing and froing on recently, and it doubles as a nest box, Clemens, as well, for your new back forest garden. For you there, my friend.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, can I say some words?
Yeah, you just say something.
I'm so surprised. I didn't know nothing. In contrary to Amelia. Where's Amelia? Yeah, Amelia. I met you yesterday. I asked, why are you here after such a long period of time? And you answered, that will that will happen tomorrow. So and I know now, but I didn't know nothing. So I just took my ties with the orangutans. I know it's mega out to have ties. I know, but I said it's for the last time that I now have these ties. So I have no prepared speech for you, but and everything is said by my lovely friend Neil Bement. Yeah, I'm looking back to a long time, 55 years of orangutans. I started in 1977 in Frankfurt Zoo with the orangutan study, and then I did observations on orangutans, play behavior observations in 25 zoos in Europe. And then the so-called IUDCG, International Union of Directors of Zoological Gardens, appointed me as the EP coordinator. IUDCG is now WASA, of course. And then I worked for the orangutans, and I'm proud that I could hand over this work to another nice coordinator. I have to thank, really, Neil Bement, my friend, for decades of common work. He was my vice coordinator. I have to thank you, Simone, that he, together with Miriam and Paula, was able to take over these jobs. We organized this very, very good, I think. I have to thank you all holders of orangutans, all colleagues, for this very, very good work, this collaboration in all these years, for all the information. And of course, I have, what should I say now? I will go on, as you mentioned, in our foundation in Karlsruhe, all around the world, from Ecuador over Kenya to Borneo, and in the southwest of Germany with the local and regional projects. So I will not get lost. And probably a message to all of you, especially to the younger ones. Please go on in your efforts for our nature. Please go on in collaborating with a lot of institutions. Go on in your efforts for sustainability, for biodiversity, and especially for our wonderful world. Thank you very much. God bless you all, and God bless the Ukraine. I remember very well when I came from Romania, where we brought some bisons, European bisons, to Romania, that I did my journey back via Sosto. And since this time, Endre is my big friend, and we organized in a new enclosure in Sosto. We organized the orangutans that came from Arnhem Zoo, and so we are good friends since 2 decades or a little bit more, I think so. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the reason he was up there, he didn't know, and Simone and I had to sit on either side of him so he couldn't move.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Congratulations, Clemens. For the next presentation of the Lifetime Achievement Award, it is my privilege to introduce it, but I would like also to invite Buzz others to the stage. So, the next award, this gentleman has been a well-known and proactive member of the EAZA community for many years. He has been involved as a member of numerous tags, including the rhino and elephant tag. He has always brought a practical animal care-based input into the deliberations of the tags. He also mentor of Kharkiv Zoo in Ukraine, Skopje Zoo in North Macedonia, and Tbilisi Zoo in Georgia. He has been a very active member of the Technical Assistance Committee since 2006, and has also mentored other zoos, such as Bursa Zoo in Turkey. He is one of the record holders as an EAZA screener, and has been on so many screenings that actually we have lost count. Mario has shaped the EAP through his supportive and constructive feedback to every zoo he visits, and guidance he provided to the developing accreditation team. And now I would like to hand over the floor.
Thank you. Yes, Mario, I can't see you right now, but where are you? Over there, yeah. Mario, what to say, what to tell? There's a lot to tell about Mario, but I've been told I only got a few minutes, so I'll try to keep it short. Mario started 15 years of age, working at Amersfoort Zoo. So that was around 1922, I think. So a long time ago. Some people would say that a person that works for so long in this kind of community would be called a dinosaur, a word that I've heard several times this evening, but I like to call him a tortoise. Not just because of the physical resemblance, but it's more because of the capability to keep growing and educating yourself and following up and even pulling with the transitions and the, sorry, I have to look at my, the progress that has been made within this community, and not just dropping behind and dying off like an actual dinosaur. It's impossible to sum up everything that Mario has done for the EAZA, the NVD, the Dutch Zoo Association, and even for Dierenpark Amersfoort, his home zoo. But I know that I'm speaking not just for myself, but for a lot of people here, and I think also for a lot of people that couldn't be here, that even though he retired a couple of years ago in Dierenpark Amersfoort, we are still very thankful. He still remains a part of Dierenpark Amersfoort and still an active part within our zoo and within the EAZA. And for that we thank you, Mario. And on a personal note, you can join me if you want. Yeah? I know it takes a long time for you to get from there to here. No, sorry. Yeah, that's the way we talk to each other in Holland, so yeah. And on a personal note, Mario, and I'm sure that some people here will completely agree with me, I wanted you to know that, in my opinion, I wouldn't be standing here, the person I am, if I had met you, and we didn't have the discussions, good times, bad times, in the last 25 years that we know each other. And for that, I want to thank you personally.
Yeah, an unexpected moment, and special in this conference. I had a lot of comments in the different meetings. So when I saw I had to come here, I did not expect an award, but I suppose it should be. But I hope that it's an unbelievable moment for me. I still love to work in the zoos. I am also with Amalia. Where are you, Amalia? Oh, yeah. Now we have. No, you don't walk. Don't look around. Yeah. Now we have two dinosaurs with an award. Thank you. I don't know what to say, but it's great. And I hope to support all of you for the rest of my life. So I have time enough. Thank you.
For next, I would like to kindly invite Leslie Dickey for the introduction of the next Lifetime Achievement Awards.
Thank you, Andre. Like Neil, the first thing I have to do is take the glasses off, sort those out. Okay, I am absolutely delighted and honoured to be asked to read the citation for our, I think, final Lifetime Achievement Award winner this evening, and that man is Simon Tong. So let me start. Californian condor, Alagos curassow, all the endemics of the Andaman Islands. Species of birds that Simon has never seen and I have. I keep one bird list, things Simon hasn't seen. He finds it so annoying. But it's a good starting point. I think lots of you in this room know how much Simon loves birds. He is an animal man through and through. And it's that passion for nature, whether that's his beloved birds, the moths that he's continually trapping and releasing and creating records for in his own back garden, the reptiles that he's worked with over the years. I think many people perhaps don't know quite what an expert he is in herpetology, and many, many other taxa. This love of nature has driven his commitment to the zoo world and his absolutely immense contribution to our EAZA community. So Simon began his career over 40 years ago at the institution that I run today, the Durrell Wildlife Conservation Trust, then known as the Jersey Wildlife Preservation Trust. And Simon worked in the herpetology department for 10 years as a keeper and then as the section head. And not only did Simon work in the zoo in Jersey, he also carried out field work around the world for us. In particular, work restoring the habitats and fauna of Round Island off the north coast of Mauritius. That's still a key project of Durrell today, and Simon was in there very early, documenting the devastation that had happened to that island and what we could do next. Now, we actually still have 2 animals at Jersey Zoo that Simon worked with. They're still alive, radiated tortoises. And we can still see in our animal records and accession records Simon's initials on things. So that's a real delight for us. And it was in his absolute amazing skills with reptiles in setting up the breeding and continued care that actually still in the lineages of species like Telfair skink that we have at the zoo today. So he set in course many of the programs that Durrell still works with today. So Simon was there at Durrell for 10 years, and after an interlude when he went off to train as an accountant, because he realized early on that would-be zoo directors really have to know what to do with money, he then went to the Zoological Society of London as the senior curator, where he stayed for 7 years. But not only during that time was he the senior curator of ZSL, 2 very large and complex collections. He also helped out at the Federation of Zoological Gardens of Great Britain, today EAZA. He was the acting director for over half a year. During that period, he was also senior curator at ZSL. A full-time job, but also contributing to that greater zoo community. And this is something that so ably demonstrates Simon's commitment to not only his own institution, but to the wider community. During that time, he was also elected to the Conservation and Animal Management Committee of the Federation, and he held that position from 1996 to 2000. And it was while Simon was at ZSL that he became actively engaged in EAZA. And he was elected chair of the Tucan and Turako Taxon Group in 1996. And of course, you know, he's been so involved with birds over the years in many different aspects of EAZA. And I know a lot of people in this room have also sought out Simon's advice when it came to birds and husbandry. And also, where do you go birding if you're on an EAZA conference? In 2000, Simon took up the role of the CEO of the Paignton Zoo, which then became the Wild Planet Trust. And during that time, he extensively enlarged the structures and the reach of the Wild Planet Trust and pushed them towards greater engagement and conservation. And he stayed at Paignton until his retirement in 2021. But for EAZA, he was elected to the Membership and Ethics Committee in 2005. He became the Vice Chair of EAZA in 2006, and then the Chair of EAZA from 2009 to 2015. At the same time, Simon was the Chair of BIAZA from 2005 to 2011, completely almost overlapping that first part of his chairmanship of EAZA, again, showing that commitment to the larger work of the zoo community and contributing to the programs, to the structures, to the community that we have today. So Simon's time as chair overlapped almost entirely with my own tenure as CEO, and I am personally extremely grateful to Simon for all his calm support for the many progressions that we made during that time. Things like the introduction of the EAZA Academy, EAZA the Journal, and perhaps most notably, accreditation. We're used to it now. It was really not easy to do at the time. It was quite a process. But what made Simon such a brilliant chair of EAZA was his spirit of trying to bring everyone along together, to listen to all, to try and build consensus. I personally have additionally benefited from his support for the past 6 years because he sat on the board of Durrell as well, and he remains the chair of our UK Trust. Now, when I was first offered the job of CEO of EAZA, I was a little bit nervous about taking up the role. I'd never held a budget and I'd never managed staff, so it was going to be a big step change. So I went down to Devon to see Simon, and I said, well, okay, what happens if I really mess something up? What will you do? He was the vice chair at that time. And he looked at me and said, what I'll say, Leslie, is, you daft cow, and then we'll get on with it. I thought, oh, I love this man. We can work together. And so it proved. And I know a lot of you in this room absolutely love Simon and his support to you over the years. I think for all who attended EAZA conferences during Simon's tenure as chair, his opening speech was always a thing of wonder. He didn't shy away from tackling tough issues, but he also brought on many, many occasions raucous laughter to the conference hall. As the staff of EAZA at the time, we never knew quite what he was going to say, but we always really looked forward to it, and who we might have to apologise to afterwards. Who can forget the fabulous conference in Verona hosted by Cesare, when Simon decided it was a good idea to reference The Godfather and horses' heads in beds? Or when he referenced the 1960s trial around the book Lady Chatterley's Lover that took place in Britain. I think he was just describing something about what good practice and breeding programs were. But when he got to the conference stage, he uttered the immortal line, "It's like the difference between art and pornography. You know it when you see it." Now, to this day, if I'm in an art gallery, a lot of you know I like art, if I see something that looks a bit dubious, I'll take a photograph, I'll WhatsApp it to Simon with 3 words, art or porn. And part of working with Simon, I'm sure many of you in this room will agree, was not only his commitment, his support, his knowledge, but the great fun that we had, and the great fun that went on, whether in the working sessions, but also afterwards. I can remember one night, I think we were either in Budapest or Prague, we were in a beautiful square, having a glass of wine, and he said, "For all ends tomorrow, it's been a blast." Now, he wasn't saying that from a pessimistic point of view, but because he truly believed that, because Simon has always been a person who throws himself into the task at hand, and that really showed in all his commitments to EAZA. He's been a source of inspiration and encouragement for so many people, that includes me, and he steered the ship of EAZA through some of the very toughest times of our association, and he did it with integrity and bravery. Now, Simon today, we've talked about, numbers nerds and geeks, and Simon is a bird nerd. So today, he actually spends some of his time working at his local Natural History Museum, doing the taxonomy for their bird collections. And I know he's loving that. But he also, as I said, still chairs the UK Trust of Durrell. He's on the board of WWT, and he also still contributes to a number of NGOs, conservation teams in the field. So he's still very busy and active, but probably his proudest role right now is to be the grandfather of an 18-month-old called Murphy, his little granddaughter, who he gets a daily update about. So he's very busy. And he's not the only Tong in the zoo world. There's a young man called Andy Tong working at the Highland Wildlife Park who'll make sure this name continues in the zoo community. So in the film Dead Poets Society, when the students are saluting their teacher for inspirational teaching, they stand on their desks and they use the poetry of Walt Whitman and proclaim, "Oh, Captain, my Captain." So Simon, oh, Captain, our Captain, please come to the stage and accept your Lifetime Achievement Award.
Ooh.
One little minute. Leslie has said absolutely everything that I would want to say, apart from one other thing. Simon's work for EAZA is more than a Lifetime Achievement Award. It is an honorary membership as well. So thank you, Simon, for all you've given to EAZA.
Thank you.
We're lovely to be part of our honorary membership too.
Thank you very much. As you get older, you get kind of more easily choked up, and thank you, Leslie. People asked me that when those who knew that I was going to get this award, they said to me, "Have you prepared a speech?" And Mark Twain, I think, said it takes 3 weeks to prepare a good impromptu speech. Now, I've had more than 3 weeks, but at the time I was kind of, I knew that I didn't know who was going to give the eulogy, and I didn't know what they would say, and I didn't want to repeat stuff. So basically, I haven't prepared a speech, so I'm just going to kind of wing it. First of all, Leslie has, summarised my career, and I'm proud of it, from the beginnings in Jersey, and the seminal place that organisation had in the development of the conservation ethic in our zoos. By the way, I still remember the reference numbers for those two tortoises, R26A and R26B. There you go. And I was chairman of this organisation for nearly 7 years. I was on council for the best part of 15 in various guises. EAZA has been central to my professional life, if you like, and it has provided me with some of the greatest challenges and some of the greatest joys of my career. The greatest challenges, the Marius giraffe case in 2014, that challenged all of us as a whole community. Every single one of us was involved in that. But it was my job to try and bring people together, and you be the judge of whether we managed to do that. The opening day of the Wrocław conference, when Richard Parkle, the tiger keeper, was killed an hour before the conference opened. That was tough.
That was really tough to know what to do in those circumstances. There was no right answer. On the other hand, great joys, ridiculous farce of going around committee rooms, getting people out of committee rooms to come to the AGM for votes. And I noticed that today the same process still goes on, so that gave me some achievements I'm proud of, particularly are the appointment of two fantastic female directors that we've had for this organisation. Leslie, and she described the circumstances that happened, and the same with Mifanwi. And both of them were probably too early in their careers to have taken on the role, and they did a fantastic job with it. And you know, I'm proud of being part of that. I'm proud of taking those risks, and it you know, shows sometimes that risks pay off. I put a lot into this association, and I've had a lot back out of it. And you know, in a sense, I'm yesterday's man. I was thinking, actually, you know, I'm the living sort of personification of the Doppler effect. You know, when the ambulance is coming, going, Nino, 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 rushing at you like this, and all this stuff going on, and then it goes past, and it goes, Nino, Nino. And I'm kind of in that phase, in the Nino, just tapering away phase. But I'm still around. I still do accreditation inspections, and very much enjoy them. And I love the cut and thrust of those discussions. I've had from this community, as Leslie's said, you know, the most astonishing support and friendship and great joy. Working with the team in the office here has always been a complete joy. They've been wonderfully professional and supportive, and as have you, as a community. You've given me so much feedback, some of it challenging and probably deserved, but you know, it's always the cut and thrust that you and me, and I've enjoyed it enormously. And as Leslie said, and I've said to my kids, who I think might be watching this, you know, if it all goes dark tomorrow, I've had a blast. And then final thing, just to say, I noticed on the preamble before the session started, the quotes that were being put up there. And one of them, which I loved, was say that in Portuguese, people don't die, they simply go away with the pigs. Now, people who know me know I really love pigs. I like to eat them. I like to scratch them behind the ears. I just smack their fat asses sometimes. You know, there are not enough pigs. There are not enough pigs in the EAZA zoos. So, you know, the chairman, Kirsten, wherever you are, of the EEP committee, get it sorted. More bloody pigs. No, I am going, you know, hopefully I'm not going to die, but I am going off with the pigs. And Winston Churchill pointed out that, you know, dogs look up to us, cats look down, pigs are equal. And that's fine by me if, you know, spend the rest of my time with the pigs, metaphorically perhaps, but maybe actuality, then that's great. It's been a very satisfying and comforting end. So thank you all so much for your support and your kindness, and I very much look forward to sharing one last drink or two, perhaps, this evening with you. It's been noticeable, of course, as you get older in this profession, that the number of people who you really know, your little cadre of people, your go-to people, get smaller and smaller and smaller, and so the majority of you, you know, haven't seen me in action and probably thinking, who the hell is this guy just banging on? Well, let's go and have a drink and a dance tonight, and, you know, thank you all so much for all your support over the years. Thank you.
Go into the light, go into the light.
Walk towards the light.
Congratulations, Simon, and thank you very much, Leslie, for the personal touch. I truly believe that many of us, it is not only impressed, but personally touched by the amazing personality, career, and success of these beloved friends and colleagues. Thank you very much. And before I'm closing the award session, I would like to mention that even Bengt Holst got an honorary membership at the Directors' Day in Buval. We should remember this as well. And closing the award session, I have one more task left, and this is to invite the host of the conference and the next host of the EAZA Annual Conference, because we have this nice transfer of the flag to the next host.
Good afternoon. It's very happy for me to have this wonderful conference. This is one dream that we have for 2 years. And a shame that I don't have the chance of being here because for my disease in the 5 last days. Anyway, but I hope that everybody love the conference, love the papers, love the visit to submarine, see the hospitality that this beautiful country, Portugal. This is one little paradise. We're very proud about our country. And welcome always. And we try the giving the best with her, our love, our friends, friendship, and we very, very happy that they have all you here. Thank you very much, and welcome to next time. Para nuestros colegas, para our college in Finland, they have a new conference. This is good.
Thank you.
Is it called?
It is, it will be. Thank you very much, Zoo Marine, and thank you for the warm start to preparing the conference. With port wine is probably going very well, and hopefully we can bring this wonderful atmosphere also to Finland. This weather is probably harder. But the bar is set now, and we are aiming for as nice conference as we have had.
I've been coming here for several years, and there is one sentence I've heard more than anything else. And it's most of you telling me that you've never been to Finland. So that's why we are doing this. We are going to correct this one thing now and hope you all be there. I'm happy to be here on stage because I tried to do this one time in year 2020 on online conference, and I was sitting in the train and the connections were not working and I couldn't even say welcome, but then there wasn't the conference either. But I think now, hopefully, the world isn't against us. We'll see. But about Finland, I just tell you a few facts since you haven't been there. Finland is the happiest country in the world for many years in a row. Although if you tell this to Finnish people, they say that there must be something wrong in investigation. Finland also scores full 100 points in freedom. So that means that we are also really free-minded people. Helsinki has the best work-life balance in the world. And we have also the most reliable police force in Finland. But don't worry, you probably don't need it because we are also a very safe country. And we are also doing good in education, global gender gap, and we are least corrupt. So I would say that we are in many ways a good country to visit, and to show you a bit more, we have the video to present. Hello friends. We tried this already once, but then the whole world was against us. But now we re-invite you to come to Helsinki in September 2023. Meanwhile, our zoo has become a big construction site. This is not our project, but Helsinki is building a bridge. You'll see where we are at the moment you come here. And then we made this video, which we already showed you once, but probably you don't remember what's in it. So you'll see it again.
Earth belongs to all of us, and protecting its biodiversity requires international collaboration. That's why we invite all members of the European Association of Zoos and Aquaria to join us in Korkeasaari Zoo. So pack your bags and head north towards Finland. But what's in Finland? We have 4 seasons. In spring, nature awakes and blossoms. Summer is short, but the sun doesn't set, not even at night. Autumn colors take over in the fall, and during winter, the ground is covered with snow, usually at least. And the sun shines for a few hours only. But in return, the northern lights glow in beautiful colors in the night sky, if you're in the far north, which is 1,000 kilometers away. To fight off the sleepiness during the dark season, we drink coffee. A lot of coffee. More than in any other country. And of course, we go to the sauna to stay warm. Well, we also go to the sauna in the summer. Actually, we go to the sauna whenever we can. But you're coming here in September. You won't experience the nightless nights or the northern lights. Most likely, it will be cloudy and rainy. But don't let it discourage you. Our capital is located at the shore of the Baltic Sea. It has its own eventful history, but it is modern nevertheless. Helsinki offers plenty of green spaces, as well as urban scenery. The public transport works efficiently, and most travel distances are anyways short. The conference will be held in the Marina Congress Center, which is only a stone throw from the city center. The Helsinki Cathedral, one of the city's most well-known landmarks, is just nearby. The market square is an excellent starting point for exploring the surrounding islands, including Korkeasaari Zoo. As I said, everything is nearby in Helsinki. Around 500,000 visitors come to Korkeasaari every year, which corresponds to 10% of the Finnish population. Most of them visit during the summer, though we're open all year round. We have roughly 150 different animal species, most of which have been chosen because they can thrive in the Finnish climate. In addition to Finnish species, we have Amur tigers, Bactrian camels, European bison, markhors and snow leopards, just to name a few. Our tropical houses are heated throughout the year, of course, but otherwise our animals are given the choice to be outside if they wish. Our bears hibernate in winter though. When they wake up, it's not only a clear sign of the approaching spring, but also makes the headlines all across Finland and the world. We encourage our visitors to learn and participate. During the feeding sessions in the summer, we are able to reach out to almost half of our visitors. Our nature school teaches kids about biodiversity and encourages them to take action. We also lead by example and aim to reduce our carbon emissions to zero during the coming decade. One of our most famous events is the annual Night of the Cats, where we collect funds for the conservation of Amur leopards and tigers. Altogether, we donate to 10 different conservation programs around the world, and we also participate in reintroduction projects. For example, some of our European forest reindeers have been returned to their original habitats in southwestern Finland. In addition to our zoo, we also run a wildlife hospital. It is the largest care facility in Finland for wild animals that have been injured or orphaned. The wildlife hospital receives approximately 1,300 patients a year, and the goal is to release them back to the wild after the recovery. The Finnish name of our zoo is Korkeasaaren eläintarha, which literally translates as Zoological Park of the High Island, but we tend to say Korkeasaari Zoo. If this is still too much of a tongue twister, calling us Helsinki Zoo is also acceptable. The Finnish language in general might sound like a tricky one to pick up, but don't worry. Many of us speak Swedish or some other equally obscure language, and almost everyone speaks English. Sanna, please demonstrate.
You are warmly welcome to Helsinki. Tervetuloa.
And as such, thank you very much for the presentation. As such, I have the really sad task to officially close this conference. It was a great conference. We have only two duties. First, enjoy the night, and second, see each other next time in Helsinki.